Broadcast button on the GoToWebinar control panel to allow all attendees to hear you. This system will notify you once you begin your broadcast. Broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Good morning, everyone. We're going to start today's session. In today's session, first I would like to recap what we have seen in the last week about DXC on Monday's session, not in the last week. This week on the Monday session, we see the introduction about DXC. So what is DXC? DXC stands for Direct Extractor Connection. So DXC is primarily used when you want to bypass existing systems like BW. You want to bypass the existing systems like BW, and the target is SAP HANA. So the other day we discussed about, let me draw this diagram here. So source is ECC, source system is ECC system. ECC is our source system and target is so here is the target HANA, and then here we have BW. So the communication mode between ECC and BW is an RFC connection. So using an RFC connection, ECC and BW communicate. So traditionally what happens, we discussed on Monday, ECC consists of tables. BW cannot directly communicate with ECC tables. We try to denormalize the tables are in normalized format. Data source is a denormalized object. So we try to denormalize nothing but based on these tables we create a data source. And these data sources are available. The data sources that you see here, these are available as standard. There are standard data sources. We can also create custom data source. Both we can do. You have tables, these tables, based on the standard tables, you have a standard data source. Standard data sources can be found in RSA5. RSA5 is the T code where you find all the standard data sources. For example, you can find standard data sources for company code, for customer, for material, cost center, profit center, any. So SAP has given a lot of standard data sources. So all this standard we can find in RSA5. This is the T code in which you'll find all the standard data sources. Now suppose say you want to create your own data source. You'd like to create your own data source, then the T code, when you want to create your own RSO2. So this is customized. You can customize a data source using RSO2. You can create your own data source. So these data sources, whether it is standard or custom data source, we need to replicate this data source. Means you need to get a copy of these data sources from ECC to SAP BW. So first from here data source should be available over here. So how will a data source from ECC available in BW? It's called as this process of replication. When you replicate a data source from ECC to BW, it's known as replication. A replication of data source can be done in a T code RSDS. So RSDS is the T code where we can replicate data sources. 3 T codes: RSA5 to find standard data sources, RSO2 to create custom data sources, RSDS to replicate data sources from ECC to BW. So once this is complete, data sources are now available in BW. Once you are done, the data source is now available in BW. Now once data sources are available in BW, the next step is, I'll just write down the steps here. So step number 1, step number 2 to replicate. Step number 3 is to activate. We need to activate these data sources. So what is activation? Activation is nothing but making this object in an active state. So when you replicate this object, it will be available as an inactive state. So we need to make these data sources into active state. To activate them, you have something like a file like a symbol. Just we need to click on that. So once you click on that, an icon in which you can activate, you need to click on that icon. Once you activate, these data sources will create 5 different tables in SAP HANA. For each data source it creates 5 tables, like 0 0, 0 0, 40, 70, 80 and AO. So these are the 5 data sources, these are the 5 tables it creates in SAP HANA. Let me tell you the names. So 00 table is known as active data table. It's known as active data table. A 40 table is known as activation queue table. A 70-80 AO tables are known as control tables. The control tables store system related information. They store all the system related information. Activation queue 40 table. Activation queue table stores data which is inactive. The data which is inactive state will be available in 40 table. So from here, finally the data should be available in 00 table. So at the final stage, data will be available in 00 table. And on top of this active data table, on top of this table, we are going to create information views. Means data model. Data models are created based on 00 table. So this is the only table we use inside a data model. So all the other tables are just supporting this table. Like 40, 70, 80, all these tables, other 4 tables are supporting 00 table. So this is the only table we use inside the data model. Okay. For data sources to be available in SAP HANA, we need to make these data sources in BW. Only when you make these data sources available in BW and activate them, only when you activate, these will be created as column tables. These are created as column tables in SAP HANA. Once these column tables, 5 column tables are created, all these tables together, all of these tables together, all of these tables together are known as in-memory DSO. They call as in-memory DSO. So in-memory DSO is a DSO. In-memory DSO is a DSO that contains 5 tables. These tables are 00, 40, 70, 80 AO. 40 table is called activation queue table. A 00 table is called active data table. 70, 80 AO tables are called as control tables. All of them together known as in-memory DSO. In-memory data store object. In-memory data store object. Okay. So until now we only see about metadata. Nothing but the containers which can store content. We only see about the containers. But how about content getting to these tables? So how do we get content? Nothing but data. So where is data? Data is at the source system. So we have data at here, at the base tables. So how do we get this data from these base tables? How do we get this data from base tables that's on the ECC? How do we get this data from here to a 00 table? So in the entire process, if you see in the entire process, there are only two places where it can store data. One at ECC, the other at 00 table. So how do we get from here to here? The communication between ECC and HANA, HTTP connection. Communication between ECC and BW is an RFC, a remote function call. Communication between ECC and HANA is a HTTP. RFC, remote function call, is between SAP system. ECC is an SAP system. BW is an SAP system. Both are based on ABAP application layer. ABAP ES. ABAP application server. ECC is an ABAP application server, but HANA is an in-memory database and an application platform. It's an in-memory DB and an application platform. So both of them, ECC and HANA, can communicate using HTTP connection for DXC. For DXC, it uses HTTP connection. So what is HTTP connection? It transfers data from ECC tables to tables in SAP HANA using web applications. So using web, nothing but the HTTP, data is transferred from ECC table to active data table using web applications. So how do we get data from here to here? The communication mode is HTTP. Okay, communication mode is HTTP, but to get data from, so this is the communication mode, but to get data from here and put it over here, we use an object called info package. Excuse me. Info package is nothing but it's a job server. Info package is a job server. So what is the use of this job server? Job server is an object that is used to transfer data from ECC to SAP HANA tables. So how do we transfer data from ECC table to HANA table? We create an info package. The name of the object is info package. So info package is an object that transfers data from ECC tables to HANA table. Okay, let us ask few questions now. So what is the T code to transfer data source? What is the T code to transfer the data source from ECC to BW? RSDS. Where do you find all the standard data sources? RSA5. Where do we create custom data sources? RSA2. When using DXC, what is the communication between ECC and SAP HANA? HTTP connection. What is the object? What is the name of the object that is going to transfer data from ECC to SAP HANA? Info package. When you activate a data source in SAP BW, how many tables are created in SAP HANA? 5 tables. All these 5 tables together are known as in-memory DSO. In-memory DSO consists of 5 tables: 00, 40, 70, 80 AO. 00 is called as active data table, 40 called as activation queue table, 70, 80 AO are control tables. This contains system information. So, when you execute an info package, always first data comes to 40 table. From here, first it comes to 40. From 40, data is transferred to 00. And the process of transferring data from 40 to 00 table, the process of transferring data from 40 to 00 table is called as activation of data. The process of transfer of data from 40 to 00 is called as activation of data. Automatically, the data from 40 goes to 00 table. This is taken care by system automatically. Once the data enter 40 table, from here to 00, automatically it gets transferred. Just it needs to arrive. It is similar to logging table. So how a logging table automatically from DB triggers it sends to logging table, from logging table read module reads and sends to write module. So how data is getting automatically transferred? The same way in SLT how it is getting transferred from one table to a different table. In the same way here also data transferred from 40 to 00 table. This is called as activation of data. That is automatically done by the system. So from here to here, there is an internal job executed by the system in which it transfers from here to here. Now let us see how we can do this practically. So in order to do this practically, what configuration we have to do? First, we need to do a few configurations. The first configuration here, because ECC and BW are already existing systems, both systems, both ECC and BW needs to have an RFC. Both needs to have an RFC connection. And then ECC to SAP HANA, it needs to have a HTTP connection. So after we maintain a HTTP connection, And then we need to make configurations. The configuration for DXC can be maintained in a table called RSAdmin. RSAdmin. So what is this table? What is the use of this table? The use of this table is we are telling to ECC system. RSAdmin is on the ECC. Inside this table we maintain, when you activate tables on BW system, in which system should these tables get created? Sorry, in which schema should we create these in-memory DSO tables? These 5 tables should be created in which schema? We need to maintain this in RSAdmin. So create these 5 tables in a schema called best. So we need to maintain, okay, create all these tables in the best schema. And the next thing is, which connection should we use to transfer all these tables? What is the connection that we need to use to transfer all these tables to SAP HANA? This connection also needs to be maintained in RSAdmin table. So 2 things we need to maintain in RSAdmin. What is the name of the connection that we are going to use, and in which schema will DXC table store? What is the schema in which DXC tables will store? And what is the name of the HTTP connection? Both this information we need to store in RSAdmin. So once we store this information in RSAdmin, now what will happen? When you activate, tables are created in that particular schema. When you execute info package, it will use this connection to transfer data. So both these settings we maintain in RSAdmin table. So this is step number 3. So once we maintain this configuration, so what is the name of the schema and what connections that we're going to use to transfer data, and then we need to identify based on the business requirement whether I'm going to use a standard data source or create a data source that is customized. Whether you are going to use a standard data source or you're going to use a custom data source. If you're using standard, we use RSA5. If you're using custom, we use RSO2. And we need to make the data source ready. We need to make the data source ready to transfer to BW. So how do you transfer RSDS? That is the next step. Step number 4. What is step number 4? Prepare the data source to get it transferred to BW. It could be standard, it could be custom, based on the requirement. That is step number 4. Prepare data source and make it ready to transfer to BW. Step number 5. Once the data source is ready, replicate to BW. How do we replicate RSDS? Replicate of data source can be done in RSDS. That is step number 5. Step number 6. Activate the data source. Step number 7. Once you activate, check tables in SAP HANA. Where will you check these tables? In which schema? In the best schema. Because this I already maintained here. So now you know these tables are going to get created in this schema that you maintain in RS admin. So these tables will be created in that particular schema that you maintain in RS admin. So check these tables in RS admin. So these 5 tables are created. Once these tables are created, step number 7, check these tables. Step number 8, execute the job. Nothing but the info package. Once you execute, the request will go via RFC, go to the ECC. Using HTTP connection, transfer data to 00 table. Step number 8, execute info package and data available in 00 table. Step number 9, create a data model. Step number 10, the last step, check data. Check the data at the data model. So again I repeat the steps for one last time. Maintain an RFC between ECC and BW. Create a HTTP connection. Maintain the schema in which you want to create tables. Update the connection that you created in RS admin table. Make the data source ready to transfer to BW using RSA5 or RSA2. Replicate data source to BW by using RSDS. Activate the data source. 5 tables are created. Execute info package. Data transferred to 00 table. Based on 00 table, create a data model. Activate the data model and finally check data inside the data model. So from the next time, whatever the data that should be going to BW will no more go to BW. It'll actually take some, when you execute this, normally if DXC is not enabled, data from here will be available in BW. Because we have direct extractor connection, now data will start flowing to SAP HANA. So this is the entire exercise. So let us start from step number 1. Let's see, you already have an RFC connection between ECC and BW. And then from ECC to HANA, we need to check whether we have a HTTP connection. So let us do this. Before that, let us log into remote desktop connection, MSTSC. Click on remote desktop connection. Click on connect. Let me just copy this diagram from the, just try to copy this diagram. Okay, now this diagram is inside the remote desktop. So let's do the first step. Click Start, click on SAP Logon, and double click on ECC, double click on ECC. Username is best, password W capital welcome 123, and click enter. Now here, now we're inside the ECC system. So is my voice okay or is it breaking? Is my voice okay? Is it breaking? I just got a message, my voice is breaking. Okay, thank you. So the first thing that we're doing is we're logging into ECC. One thing I would like to highlight here, ECC system also have a system called BW inside ECC. So inside ECC also you have BW. So the BW system can be outside ECC or inside ECC, just like SLT. Just like SLT can be inside ECC or it can be outside ECC. Just that we are sharing resources. So BW can be outside, BW can be inside. Just we are trying to share resources. So in this case, in the example that I'm taking now, BW is inside the ECC system. Please see, I'll go to ECC, click on Systems, click on Status. So you can find BW inside the ECC box. It's called as Embedded BW. It's known as Embedded. BW is embedded inside ECC system. Click on Component Information. So here you have SAP BW. So BW is inside the ECC system. Why it's inside the ECC system? Just like SLT. We are trying to share the same resources, CPU, memory, disk, all the resources we are trying to share among ECC, SLT, BW, everything in a single box. So ECC is there, BW is there in the same box. So now if I want to check and work on BW system, there is one important transaction code. The important transaction code is RSA1. The important transaction code RSA1. RSA1 is a T code which is known as a data warehousing workbench. It's known as Data Warehousing Workbench. So this is an important T code for BW. One of the important T codes for BW. So what is RSA1? Reporting System Administration 1. RSA1 is an important T code to work on BW. Enter RSA1 and click enter. So here we have source systems. So what is a source system? So ECC is our source system. Please see here. ECC is our source. BW is our target. So from here to here data will start flow. So that's why here it's called a source. So what is source system? Where the data is originated from. The system in which the data is originated is called a source system. From where we are originating this data. From where we are originating from ECC. And BW becomes a target system. HANA is a target system. So source system is ECC. So if you go back, click on source systems. So here you can find this RFC. So this is the connection. Right click on this. We can check whether we are able to communicate to ECC. Click on check. Source system connection. T90 CLNT 090 OK. It means that BW and ECC both are able to communicate. So this is an RFC connection. BW is connected to ECC. So this is nothing but the RFC connection. What is the name? T90 CLNT 090. So using this, I'm able to communicate to ECC system. So basically, this is the RFC T90 CLNT 090. So this is the name of the connection that I'm able to communicate to BW system. So this is the name of the connection T90 CLNT 090. So using this connection, both are able to communicate. This is step number 1. Step number 2. HTTP connection. HTTP connections, we find this connection on the ECC system. We find this connection on the ECC. Inside ECC, where do you find this? We find in a T code SM59. SM59 is a T code where you can find this connection. Let's go to SM59. So here we know RFC. Then I'm trying to show you HTTP. Create session. So SM37. Sorry. SM59. And click enter. So here we have SM59. SM59 is a T code in which we can find the HTTP connection. So here you have HTTP connections to external server. Once we expand this, so if we scroll to the bottom, so here we find a DXC, let's take this, DXC HANA connection INS or DXC HANA connection HTTP. All these are same, just duplicate connection, like participants are practicing, that's why these connections are. Otherwise one connection is sufficient. So here you have this connection. So double click on this connection and click on connection test. Click on response body. So here you find SAP HANA direct extractor connection DXC service is up and running. So this is the name of the connection. So this is the name of the connection. That is able to communicate between ECC and SAP HANA. So this is the name of the connection that's able to communicate between ECC and BW. Step number 2. So here we will be able to see this SAP HANA direct extractor connection service is up and running. So this is the first one and this is the second one. Now coming to the third one, RS admin. Let's create session and S11, click enter. A database table name RS admin. This is the database table name RS admin. Click display. Click on display on the RS admin. The RS admin, what is this table? It's nothing but data import administration settings. So what is the importance of this table? Nothing but data import administration settings. So how do you import data? For importing of data, this administration settings we maintain inside this table, RS admin, data import administration settings. Click on contents and click execute. Okay, so in this table, what is the connection? Please see. The connection is DXC HANA connection HDB. PSA to HDB destination. This is the name of the HTTP connection. This one. So what we're trying to do, we are maintaining this connection name inside this table. We're maintaining the name of the schema inside this table. So once we go to this table, Here we can see the name of the connection and name of the schema. You see, both are name of the connection and name of best. Best is the name of the schema. So how did we maintain these entries inside this table? So you can maintain these entries inside this table using a T code. Using a T code SM38. Create session. Create session. Go to SC38. SC38 is a T code. In this T code, there is one program, SAP underscore RS admin underscore maintain. Using this program, we can update the table. Once you click execute, so maintain RS admin table. So if we want to maintain entries inside this table, we need to use this program SAP underscore RS admin underscore maintain. So where do we need to give this program? In SM38. So in SM38, once you give this program name and click execute, we need to give the object. So what is the object? Object is nothing but the name of the, please see, this is the object and this is the value. So this is the name of the object. So we need to copy this object name and then provide this object name, provide this name of this object in here and provide the value name. So what is the value name? Name of the connection. So once you, for example, let's say this is the name of the connection. So we are taking this connection name. So once I maintain here, if I give like this, name of the object and name of the connection, if I give like this, and what you want to do, let's say you want to delete, for example, let's delete, execute. So this is the old setting. This value is deleted. Now let's go back and check in RS admin table. So go back to RS admin table, refresh. You see it's deleted. So you don't find this parameter anymore. So if you want to maintain this, insert, execute. So once you insert, let's go back to the RS admin table, refresh. Again this parameter has come in. So like this, we need to maintain the name of the object and the connection name, the schema and what schema. So once you get into this table, what is the connection, what's the schema? So this connection we are going to use for data transfer to SAP HANA, and this schema is where tables are residing. Step number 3. Step number 4. Go to RSA5 or RSO2 inside ECC system. So inside ECC system, let's go to these T codes, RSA5 or RSO2. So create session, enter the T code RSA5 and click enter. Enter the T code RSA5 and click enter. So here you find all these data sources. Expand SAP R by 3. What application are you looking at? Controlling, customer service, logistics, materials, personal management, plant maintenance, project systems. So all these are different applications. So what data source you would like to take? So we would like to take, let's say, sales and distribution, or let's say accounting. Anything you can take. Sales and distribution. Sales master data. So all these are master data. Customer account group, billing rules, condition applications, consumer groups, distribution channels, division. So all these are based on the requirement. We have a sales office, sales organization. Let's take sales organization. So here I would like to take sales organization data to SAP HANA. So this is a standard data source. So how do you know it is a standard data source? It's a data source standard. How do we know? Because starting with 0. If it starts with 0, any data source that starts with 0, it means that this data source is provided by SAP. So let us copy this data source. So if you double click on this object, once you double click, so inside this data source, these are the columns that are available in the output. The company code of the sales organization, customer number of the intercompany billing, country key, fiscal year variant, sales organization, currency key, and statistics currency. So if I want to get this data source from, where is this? Inside RSA5. So this data source is inside RSA5. If I want to get this data source from RSA5 to where I need to get, my final destination is to get to SAP HANA. If I want to get it to here, from RSA5 to here, first we need to get this data source. I think, okay, let me try here. First we need to get this data source to BW. So how do we get? Data source is ready. Step number 4. We need to get this data source from here to here. How do we get? Replicate. Step number 4 is to make the data source ready. Once the data source is ready, then we need to replicate. So data source is ready. So until here, any confusion participants may have, or we can continue tomorrow. If you have confusion or something too much for today, we can see tomorrow, no problem. So should we stop at this part? Creating data sources and replicating to SAP BW. I think most of us want to stop here. Okay, because today lot of new terminology. Okay, just I will recap once again what we see today. Just I do a once recap. Okay, so today, because a lot of terminology is there, we can go very, very slow. So today, DXC, direct extractor connection. What is DXC? Direct extractor connection. What is the use of DXC? So basically, if anyone asks in the interview, what is the use of DXC? It's just a connection to bypass BW. Simple answer. It's a connection to bypass BW system and to get data to SAP HANA. Because we bypass BW. Who is going to use DXC? If a customer already has BW system, now he would like to go for HANA, use DXC. But we need to have BW. Without BW, without BW system, we cannot get data to SAP HANA. Simply to say a DXC is a connection, we can only get data when you have BW system to SAP HANA. So mandatory system is BW. Without BW, DXC will not work. So how many customers are there who are using BW? Like 14,000 plus customers are there. So these 14,000 customers only use DXC. In SAP there are more than 3,25,000 customers. In 3,25,000 customers, only 14,000 are using DXC. I mean, they can use DXC if they have BW system, if they already activated BW system. So simply to say DXC is a connection to make data available in SAP HANA if you're already having BW system. Okay. Now, ECC to BW is an RFC connection. ECC to HANA is a HTTP connection. This is basically two systems have to communicate, RFC and HTTP. So once you establish the communication, next we need to tell to system in which schema should these tables go and what connection I am trying to use to transfer data to SAP HANA. We maintain the settings in RSadmin. Next step is data sources are standard or custom. Standard data sources, get one of the standard data source. We need to get to SAP BW. That's what we see until now. Connection, what data source we are going to use. Next thing we need to get this data source to BW. So once you get what we do, once you get the data source to BW, then we need to activate. Once you activate, tables are created. Once tables are created, how data will come to tables? Execute info package. Data will be there. Once data is there, what we do? Create a data model. Exercise is done. DXC. So what is the difference between a table and a data source? What is the difference between a table and a data source? Data source is a combination of tables. It's basically you have two columns from this table, and another two columns from this table, and another three columns from this table. So Total 8 columns are there inside the data source. It is like a semantic view. It's just like a view or a structure that you create on top of tables. It's another layer. So tables are at the bottom. On top of these tables we create a structure. And this structure is known as a data source. A data source never holds data. Inside the data source, it physically doesn't hold data. It only accesses data in runtime. Only in the runtime, but tables physically hold data. The difference between a table and data source, table physically hold data, whereas a data source physically doesn't hold data. It's only a runtime object, just like a structure. But why we have to create a data source? Because BW system directly cannot communicate to tables. So there is a middle layer which is a data source. So next question. So I'll read out the questions here. How to activate data? Data is automatically activated, so we don't have to activate. Data gets automatically activated once the info package is executed. Once the info package is executed, data automatically activated from 40 to 00 table. Can you show how to create a HTTP connection detail? Okay, so basically I'll just show you. So this is the HTTP connection. So when you create a HTTP connection, just click on create. Let's say DXC underscore HANA. DXC underscore HANA. DXC underscore HANA. So once you give the name of the connection, then we need to give the connection type and the settings to maintain inside this connection. So to maintain the settings, we need few parameters. For example, in here you can see one parameter called target host path prefix. So what is the target host here? What is my target? My target is SAP HANA. So we need to maintain the target host. So give it as SAP HANA. So provide this as SAP HANA. And then here you need to give the path prefix. So path prefix, give it as /SAP/HANA DXC/DXC. This path prefix is nothing but the access engine. So what is access engine? Access engine is a lightweight web application server that is running inside the SAP HANA system. This path prefix, we need to get this parameter from SAP HANA and give this parameter over here. So let us give this path prefix over here. A service number. Service number is 00. Sorry, 8000. It's not 00, it's 8000. So we need to give the service number as 8000. So once you provide the service number, then click on logon and security and provide the username and password. So at the logon security, we need to provide the username and password. So go to Logon Security. And specify basic authentication. So what is the user is best, and password is W capital welcome 123. So give username and password, and finally save the connection. So click on save to save the connection. So once the connection is saved, now using this connection, just click save. Destination DXC HANA saved. So using this connection, now we can communicate between ECC and SAP HANA. If you want to test whether this connection is working or not, click on connection test and click on DXC HANA, click on response body. SAP HANA direct extractor connection DXC service is up and running. So it's very simple. Just if you want to create, just you can copy this. Go to technical settings, host name, service number, prefix path, log on security, provide the username and password, save. Take this connection and update in RS admin. So next question. Is there any configuration required to establish the connection from ECC to HANA in HANA side? Just like HTTP connection in SM59 in ECC. Just now we see this question. So connection required from ECC to HANA, the prefix path. Access engine should be enabled. You need to make sure access engine should be enabled. Normally by default it's enabled unless and until we forcefully close, but by default it's enabled. Now here we have a question. Suppose if we have an error record in the activation queue, while activating it got failed, where we need to fix this error. Suppose our ECC box is separate and BW box is separate. Whether this DXC would not work, how and where the schema is maintained in RS admin. Here how the delta load is taking care of DXC. So few questions I will answer now, few questions I will answer tomorrow. Once the tomorrow session is complete, you'll automatically able to understand. But for now, whatever we discussed today, so we have an ECC box separate and BW box separate. Whether we still require DXC. Yes. Like just like SLT inside ECC, SLT outside ECC. Same like BW inside ECC, BW outside ECC. Both are same. The only difference is we are sharing resources within a single computer. That's the only difference. Whether you have BW inside or outside, still we require DXC. Next one. How and where the schema is maintained in RS admin. So how do we maintain the name of schema in RS admin? By using the program. So if I go back and if I open this program, SE38, create session. I think sessions are complete. Okay, here we have. So once we go to SE38, select this T code, double click. We're inside SE38 T code. So inside this we need to give this program name. Click execute and provide the object name. So what is the object to maintain the schema? This is the object. PSA underscore 2 underscore HDB underscore schema. Now whatever the schema that you specify here, in that schema the tables will be created. But I given as best. So whatever the schema that you mention and execute, you can go to that schema, tables get created. Go to the next question. In the recordings, okay, next question. For DXC, should we need BW background? BW background, not at all necessary. Just what we're doing, we're not doing anything much in BW system. Only 2 steps we're doing in BW. Only 2 steps. One is replicating and the other one is creating info package. Except that we're not doing anything in BW. Replicate in BW and create info package. Except those 2 steps, no knowledge of BW is required to work on DXC. Just those 2 steps. Once you know those 2 steps, that's also very easy. Replicate is one step using RSDS. Right click on data source, create info package. So once you know those two steps, we can get data to SAP HANA. So no BW background is required. Just we need to know those 2 steps. Then we need to directly work in SAP HANA system. Next question. So if the customer bypass BW, in future if they need data into BW, how they can get? In this case, they are going to phase out BW or to replace HANA. Okay, the question is, you have BW, but you're not using BW. You're getting data to SAP HANA. But what if in future they want to go for BW? Yes, we have that setting. Simply deactivate DXC. That is one thing. And second thing is, if you want data in both the systems, you want data in BW, you want data in SAP HANA. Let's say both scenarios you want to maintain. Yes, we can maintain. Continue to get data to BW, continue to load data to SAP HANA. So it all depends on the configuration. What is the type of configuration that we're doing? Yes, we need to make that setting. Once we make that settings, you only want to get to HANA. You also want to get to BW, or you don't want to use DXC. It all depends on how we want to configure. But still we can configure all these scenarios. Next question. Table and data source are joined physically. Data source is nothing but a view. Tables inside data source, tables are not physical objects. inside data source, tables are separate, but we're accessing these tables inside this data source. So next question, will you cover S4 HANA? Yes, in the upcoming lectures we will cover S4 HANA. So still we are in data provisioning. So once we complete data provisioning, then once we complete another round of data modeling, we'll go and see a few more details about data modeling. Once we complete, then I'll show you the UI integration, how we can integrate with user interfaces belonging to different applications. Next is the UI. Once we complete UI, then we go to S4 HANA. So we're just covering one by one at one time, because my always I try to prioritize things. For now, we are focusing on data provisioning. So we only focus on data provisioning. Slowly we'll learn. So we'll learn by the end of the time, we'll be able to learn everything. So what I'm trying to say, every class is important for us. Every piece of knowledge is useful. No knowledge is going waste. So at the end of the day, we'll be able to cover, but we need to focus on today, this hour, this time, this second. That is most important. At the end of the day, we cover, but this is also important. Next, in HA330, I read that BW to HANA, we can use SLT connection. But here you mentioned only DXC is used for BW and HANA. So that is different. So that we see BW integration with SAP HANA. So here we only focus on DXC. SLT and BW are different. But this is, we're not using SLT here. We're only working with DXC. So what is the difference between SLT and DXC? You already know. SLT directly communicates to tables, but DXC do not communicate to tables. It communicates to data sources. SLT is real time. DXC is batch process. To work on SLT, we don't require BW. To work on DXC, we require BW. DXC is a connection. SLT is a tool in itself. It's basically a tool in itself. And DXC is available for free of usage. SLT comes with a licensing cost. So just to, in a very light, DXC is batch. DXC can be used when you have BW, but SLT is real time. So I think recordings are, please communicate with Bharat. few participants asking me about recordings. But Bharat is already come in now. Please directly communicate with Bharat. Please write an email or communicate, because he's taking the ownership of giving recordings. But during his absence, I have given. But now, please directly, because he's not available for a few days, for last 4 days. I taken the responsibility to given, but he's a single owner. He's taking care of the recordings and materials and server access. For anything related administration activities, please kindly contact Bharat. So he'll be able to help you to get those details. Thank you everyone to attend today, and once again a very happy new year to everyone. Good morning and good night. Thank you.